that, dog. This is my blood. For my blood.
We don't like that. Go home, baby.
Justice for Kenneka.
Justice for Kenneka, but yes, baby, this is not how you get it.
Okay, no, don't get mad, but I'm just proving myself that I'm not crazy. All my life, I said I was going to be rich. I spoken into existence. And I'm not saying this because...
Next question. Can I see my daughter? How she died? You know, how she laid in the freezer. As you know, I wanted to see her. He said, the detective stated yes. An hour or two went.
September 9th, 2017. A 19-year-old girl walks into a freezer at a hotel in Chicago. Hours later, she's found dead. The cameras caught everything, but somehow nobody saw her go in. And 8 years later, her mother is still screaming for answers in the streets. Literally. If you're new to shadow crime, we dive deep into the cases that keep you up at night. The ones that don't add up. The ones where justice feels just out of reach. So do me a favor real quick. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on that bell icon because this story gets darker the deeper we go, and you're not going to want to miss what comes next. Now let me tell you about Kenneka Jenkins. She was just a regular teenager from Chicago. She loved her friends, loved having a good time, and on September 8th, 2017, she was excited about going to a party. It was at the Crowne Plaza Hotel near O'Hare Airport. Nothing fancy, just one of those parties young people throw in hotel rooms. You know the type. She left her house around 11:30 that night with some friends. Her mom, Teresa Martin, didn't think much of it. Kenneka was 19, an adult, going out with people she trusted. But here's where things started to feel off. At some point during that party, Kenneka's friends realized she was gone, just vanished. And instead of looking for her properly, instead of alerting hotel security immediately, they called her mom at 4:30 in the morning and said, "We can't find Kenneka, but we have her phone." Think about that for a second. They had her phone. How do you lose someone but still have their phone? Teresa immediately knew something was wrong. She rushed to that hotel, and what happened next was a nightmare that would haunt her forever. The hotel staff, they didn't want to search. Teresa Martin had to practically beg them to check the cameras, to look for her daughter. Hours went by. Her baby was somewhere in that building, and nobody seemed to care enough to find her. Finally, at 12:25 a.m. on September 10th, almost 24 hours after Kenneka first went to that party, a hotel employee found her. She was in a walk-in freezer in the kitchen area, lying face down, dead, frozen. Now, I'm going to play you a video in just a moment of Teresa Martin speaking right after one of the first court hearings, because you need to hear the pain in this woman's voice. But first, let me tell you what the official story was, because it's going to make you question everything. The Cook County Medical Examiner ruled Kenneka's death accidental. They said she died from hypothermia, that she basically froze to death in that freezer. The toxicology report showed she had alcohol in her system and a medication called topiramate. So the official explanation was simple, maybe too simple. Kenneka got drunk, wandered into the kitchen, somehow ended up in the freezer, and couldn't get out. Case closed, right? But hold on, because this is where nothing makes sense. The hotel had surveillance cameras everywhere, and they released some of the footage to the public. You can watch it yourself. It's still online. At 3:20 in the morning, you see Kenneka stumbling near the front desk. She looks disoriented, confused, like she doesn't know where she is. Then at 3:32 a.m., the last footage shows her walking into a kitchen area and turning a corner. That's it. That's the last time anyone saw her alive on camera. But here's what's eating at people. How did she get into that freezer? These industrial freezers. They're heavy doors. Some people say you can open them from the inside. Others say the one she was in had a latch that would trap you. Nobody can agree on the facts. And where was hotel security? You're telling me a young woman is wandering around restricted kitchen areas at 3 in the morning and nobody noticed? Nobody stopped her? The hotel later said the freezer was in a construction area that was supposed to be off limits. So how did she even access it? Were the doors unlocked? Was she alone? These are questions Teresa Martin has been asking for 8 years, and she still doesn't have answers. Let's talk about her friends for a second, because their behavior that night raises serious red flags. They were at the party with her. They watched her drink, and when she disappeared, They didn't immediately panic. They didn't search the hotel thoroughly. They called her mom hours later. Some people online have accused them of knowing more than they're saying, of maybe even being involved. I'm not here to point fingers without evidence, but I am saying their stories didn't line up, and that's a problem when someone ends up dead.
Okay, no, don't get mad, but I'm just proving myself that I'm not crazy. All my life, I said I was going to be rich. I spoke it into existence. And I'm not saying this because of that, because I knew it was either I was going to get rich, saving my peoples, so I could help my peoples. Y'all didn't know. When y'all gave me that money, I deposited my money in the bank. I paid off other folks' bills, and I rent an apartment. But I sent $50. Some people got mad at me. I sent the $500 one time. Then they gonna call me back like I'm a clucker. See, God, I understand why God say he will let you start off for your lowest. And I understand why God say that, I'm sorry, this car coming the wrong way. I guess it's these people. Let me get their records. See, I had to cut that grass so low for y'all. Cause see, some people, y'all, let me tell y'all about these followers and all that. Stop doing this shit for the books. The books told me down. As long as it can get them some good ass ratings, they gonna keep whatever's trending, whether it can, no matter how it's killing the mother.
Teresa Martin knew from day one that something wasn't right. This wasn't just a mother's intuition. This was a mother who could see the holes in the investigation big enough to drive a truck through. So she did what any parent would do. She fought back. She filed a $50 million lawsuit against the hotel, claiming they were negligent, that their lack of security and failure to properly secure dangerous areas led to her daughter's death. And you know what? In 2023, 6 years after Kenneka died, they settled. The hotel agreed to pay $10 million. Now, before you think that's justice, let me tell you what Teresa Martin said about that settlement, because this is where the story takes a really dark turn. In November 2024, Teresa posted on Facebook, and what she said shook people. She said she was tricked into accepting that settlement. She said she was pressured, forced even to stay silent about her daughter. She wrote, and I'm reading this directly, that she still doesn't know what happened to Kenneka's life, her clothes, her shoes, her cell phone, her hair, and the list goes on. She said she was promised answers, promised that she would get her daughter's belongings back. But it was all lies. Once the case was supposedly over, once she signed those papers, the people she trusted disappeared. The answers never came. But it gets worse. Teresa said that during the investigation, while she was battling cancer, she and her family were held in hotel rooms for hours. They wouldn't let them leave until they said what investigators wanted them to say. Can you imagine that? You're grieving, you're sick, and you're being pressured to accept a version of events that doesn't sit right with your soul. She said they made her accept what they wanted to give her. Think about the power dynamic there. A grieving black mother up against a system that just wanted this case to go away quietly.
How was she laying? He stated she was laying on her side. And I said, was she laying, how was her legs? Was they curved, like in a fetal position? Yes. He said, no, they were straight. I said, okay. Next question. Can I see my daughter? How she died? How she laid in the freezer? I wanted to see her. He said, the detective stated yes. An hour or two went past, give or take. The sergeant come in with a very rude attitude. No, you cannot see her. It's against our procedures, our policy. You can't see her. So I asked him, with the card that the leading detective gave me, is it possible that he can write his name on the back of the card? He stated yes. After he stated yes, I said, and as well as your badge number. And I hear him whisper to the detective, badge number. So then he said, as everybody getting ready to round up to go, he said, you know what? Hold on, I'm gonna speak with the coroners and see what they can do. So here we go, hours later. 5 hours, maybe a little bit more, but rounding it off, 5 hours later, they come to me and states, only I could come see her. Me, I'm allowed, and I could bring one more other person with me. That's when they allowed me. They walked us back there. They said, wait, this is a crime scene. You are not allowed to take any photos. You can't touch, and don't touch anything. And they watched us as if we was there. You know, like we was involved in it. It seemed like the crime scene was on us, not what went on with my daughter.
Right. So you see your daughter in the freezer. Now, to bring up to date.
No, I'm sorry. No, at this time, they had removed her from the freezer. I asked them. Yes, they removed her from the freezer. When they removed her from the freezer, by the time we came 5 hours or plus later, more later, rounding it off, Kenneka was laying on a stretcher in a white body bag already.
So you never saw her?
I never saw her. I never saw her. They stated as well that there was no signs of foul play.
Right.
Like it was just a normal look.
That's what they said.
No signs of sexual harassment or anything.
Right. So do you believe differently?
From seeing the pictures, yes, I believe different.
Because the pictures came out. Before that, though, the video came out. So when we saw the video of her trying to find her way throughout the hotel, what did you think about the videos?
That she was wandering in the hotel and she needed help. And, she had a hotel, a 5-star hotel.
Right.
I know it was surveillance. Just like on each floor, they might not have cameras all through the hotel, but entering and exiting the elevator, there are cameras.
But it is her on the camera because, like I said, so many conspiracy theories. Some people said that's not even her on the video. You do believe it was your daughter on the video?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe they're saying that in one part of the video when she's walking towards the refrigerator, that's her last time being shown on videotape? So do you believe she could have just literally walked in there and got locked into the freezer, and what they're saying to be true is she got locked into the freezer and she died because of the coldness? Do you think that could be true?
Well, see, we wouldn't even be sitting here today to guess it. It was the camera. As we went in there, if you could look at the video, me and my daughter, which is some of the parts what we did, as we went in there, I'm looking at my daughter, and I looked in her face. She had a disgusted look on her face. That's an angry look, or somebody agitating her, this type of look. So I'm looking, and then I asked them, I said, can I see the freezer? Because I work in the cafeteria. So you can't tell me that she walked in this freezer and couldn't get out, because of our freezers. And not only that, me working within the CPS, cafeterias, before, every freezer has a release button or some type of handle, whereas you can't get locked in this freezer unless you're been locked on the outside. You get locked in from the outside.
Which would have taken, obviously, somebody else to do purposely.
Right.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
What you're saying.
Yes.
There's no way she could lock herself in by herself.
Exactly. So once entering, and I see the freezer, now the leading detective stated to me, she just walked in the freezer. Mm-hmm. This is before I told him I worked within the cafeteria.
Right.
She walked in the freezer, and when she walked in the freezer, she walked in. He never mentioned it was a double freezer. Walked in the freezer, closed the door behind herself, and just froze to death.
Right.
So, I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
I said, so she couldn't get out? He said, no, she couldn't get out. Because once you locked in, you locked in.
Right. But he doesn't know what you know about freezers at that time.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Did you go into the actual freezer that your daughter was in? Did you try to see what your the theory, how you can get out of it if you're in that particular freezer?
Okay, well, I'll tell you like this. We wasn't ever to actually go inside their freezer, but they had both of the doors open. I asked him when I first went back there, so you're saying it's a double freezer? He said, yes, but on our way back there, if you can see in the video, I'm pointing my finger. I'm looking for cameras. I'm looking for cameras because that's my purpose, because you can't tell me this happened with no camera around, and every time I point, I see a camera. Except when we go by the freezer, that's blocked off, which it was a camera above that freezer. And, okay, we're going to go back to that. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. When I go back to the freezer, they had both of the doors open. And I'm like, here go a glow-in-the-dark plastic release button, big white glow-in-the-dark. I said, so is this a release button? He said, the detective said, yes. And the sergeant standing back there with us as well. As I said, we're being watched as if we're the criminal, or we did this to my daughter, as if we was going to get arrested. So he stated, I asked him with the other freezer, the second door. I said, is this a release button? Big white button. Maybe, as they say, you couldn't see, but it was lightning in the freezer. And only thing we saw on the floor was a big piece of ice made in a triangle. And I'm like, okay. I said, so that's when.
Fast forward to December 2025. Just a few days ago, video footage surfaced that broke my heart, and probably broke yours too if you've seen it. Teresa Martin was spotted walking through the streets of Chicago in the middle of winter, completely naked, screaming justice for Kenneka, justice for all. Now, some people saw that video and immediately said she's mentally unstable, she's crazy, she's just looking for attention. But I want you to think about something. What does it take to break a person down to that point? This woman has been fighting for 8 years. 8 years of being told to shut up, to move on, to accept an explanation that makes no sense. 8 years of not having her daughter's belongings, not knowing the full truth about how Kenneka got into that freezer, not getting the answers she was promised. She said in her post that she might get sued for speaking out, that breaking the settlement agreement could land her back in court, but she doesn't care anymore. She'd rather face legal consequences and live with the silence they forced on her. That's not instability. That's desperation. That's a mother who's been pushed to her absolute limit by a system that values money and reputation over truth and justice. So let me ask you this, and I really want you to think about it. If you were in Teresa Martin's position, if your child died under suspicious circumstances, and every door you knocked on got slammed in your face, how long would it take before you broke too? At what point does grief mixed with injustice turn into something that looks like madness to the outside world, but is actually just raw, unfiltered pain? And here's the bigger question. Why are we so quick to label a grieving mother as crazy instead of asking why the system failed her so badly that she ended up in the streets screaming for justice? This case isn't over. Teresa Martin is still fighting, and whether you believe her or not, she deserves to be heard. If this story moved you, if it made you think, do me a favor, share this video. Let's get Kenneka's name back out there. Hit that subscribe button and join us here at Shadow Crime, where we don't just report the stories, we question them. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think there's more to Kenneka Jenkins' death than we've been told? Because I know I do. I'll see you in the next one.